Uh, Welcome, my dear students. This is your instructor, Dr. Osama Kashwa. I'm going to teach you today the purchasing curriculum, and we will discuss the outlines um, apart from this video now, but this video is just for the educational purposes. And all I need just is your attention uh, while I'm working here. Shall I start first? Share the screen, and we will go to what we came to today. So our main topic today is about, this is chapter 1. We will take the main points of chapter 1 and chapter 2 and chapter 3. This is chapter 1, and it's in the introduction to purchasing and supply chain management. We will know what the meaning of the purchasing. We will know what the meaning of the supply chain management as well. Is it, which one is the greater than the other? Which one is including the other? Is it the purchasing including the supply chain management, or the supply chain management which is including the purchasing itself? I will stop at some pages like page 8 and page 14 and 15, page 17, page 20 and 21, and other pages. When I stop there, this will be an activity because I will put a question into the board, and you guys will work on what we said here. You try to retrieve back what we talk about. So let's go. This chapter is just in light and to tell us what we are going to talk about in this material, in the purchasing materials. Okay. Uh, if there is things that's affecting the supply chain management today, nowadays, the supply chain is including the purchasing inside it. The low cost and wide variability, like you see here, of the information, because now the information is very available, links everywhere, so that makes it's important. It gives more importance to supply chain management because we are using now a telecommunication which is very fast. So this will help to enhance the job of supply chain management. Competition in domestics and international markets as well, of course, because now you can purchase whatever you want from any place in the world in any time. Look at Amazon as example, look at Alibaba, look at all those companies. They are working all online. Before 15, 20 years ago, there was no Amazon, there was no Alibaba, there was no internet even. So the world is changing now, and this is making it more important for this job. Factors driving I'm still in SCM, which is supply chain management. Customers' expectations and recruitment are more demanding. The customer nowadays is having more. He's looking forward for something new. He is eager to know every new in the world. He is eager to update himself always, and this also enhance the supply chain functions. Major disruptions requires the ability of a supply chain to react rapidly. Now, if you want to return back something, if you want it to be done in rush, and if you want some services or some goods to reach you on time, and you are in very rush, there must be accommodation to what you want. There must be, because customer, as you know, is the first and the end of all the activities. The customer is the start of the activities, and he is the end. For the customer, we produce what the customer wants, and we try to satisfy the customer's needs by our productions. Supply chain management is part of the production itself, is part of the whole job functions of any management. Competition between supply chains, of course, because this will make it very important for the supply chain management always to be in the top, to be always improving itself, improving its performance, so that because you have a competitors, and those competitors are not just if you are not like able to compete, then you will be driven away of the way uh, in this sharp competition. Now I'll come to a question, and I will actually stop on this question as well. I will stop on this question as well because this is very, very important. And here it is also, because I told you why purchasing is important. You can see the question here, why purchasing is important. And this is the top, the core of the question itself. So let's see why purchasing is important. Purchase contents is significant part of the cost of goods sold. Yeah, because the purchasing is, when you do a cost of goods sold statement, the purchasing prices is included inside it, and it's a major part of the total cost of the goods sold, right? Second thing, moving from traditional adversarial buyer-supplier relationship to improve a chain performance. This is why the purchasing is important, because now the the job itself, the supply chain, is it's increased in its own importance. It's more important than it was before. So purchased contents impact on product and services quality. Of course, any anything that the purchases is having effect on the product and the service quality. That's true. Also, because the design of the product itself, um, and the user of cross-functional teams, this is one of the points which now we are doing because of the purchase. This makes the purchasing important because you are using cross-functional teams. Early supplier involvement, that's also another point that makes the purchasing is very important job. The supply chain's impact on competitive advantage, and this is another point. Uh, we have something is called the supply chain and the value chain, but I actually will stop here first to retrieve this question back. The question is why purchasing is important, and I will give you for the answer around 5 minutes to answer this question. You can go back and you can search for extra information regarding this point. Okay, so yeah, okay. So now this is the point of why purchasing is important. And we said purchasing is important because of these points. because of these points which we mentioned previously. So let's go move on to the other points now. If the supply chain and the value chain have the same meaning, what is the supply chain management? So we are coming now to the definition of the supply chain management. We talk about the increasing role which the supply chain played on nowadays, and that was that's more than what the supply chain used to do before, particularly in the emerge of the high technology also affected. Uh, so let's see the purchasing. This is the definition of the purchasing: a functional group, i.e., formal entity on the organization chart. It means the purchasing department. It means the purchasing, as well as a functional activity, buying goods and services. Okay, that's fine. What is supply management? A strategic approach to planning for and acquiring the organization's current and future needs through effectively managing the supply base utilities. Utilization. Okay, a process orientation in conjunction with cross-functional team to achieve the organizational missions. So it's a tool. It's a tool in itself. The supply chain is a tool to achieve the overall objective of the organization. Uh, the identification, acquisition, access, positioning, and management of resources and related capabilities an organization needs or potential needs in the attainment of its strategic objectives. So here we can say that we have in the defining the supply management, the strategic orientation, the cross-functional groups are working, supply-based management is there, and process-driven approach. So supply chain orientation, a higher level recognition of strategic value of managing operational activities and flows within the across the supply chain. So uh, now I will come to very important point, and there is a question also I prepare for you here about state the difference between the supply chain and the value chain, and this is on slides 14 and 15. And by the way, those questions are very important, and they are question target, either in the assignment or in the exams. They are very important, these questions actually, and I might give you like a modify some of them, like as examples, say give examples whatever you are working on one of these questions, give examples, or try to search the web for extra difference as well between the supply chain and the value chain. So here is the question: state the difference between supply chain and the value chain. And you will find it on slide 14 and 15 from this PowerPoints. So the value chain, primary and secondary, support activities that can lead to competitive advantage. And the supply chain, this is the value chain. Supply chain, a set of 3 or more organizations. Look at this. Linked directly by one or more of the upstream or downstream flows of product, services, finances, and information from a source, would start from a place to a customer. And the final end of the supply chain activity is the customer. The customer, of course, because like we said, the customer is the start and the end of every business. Okay. So this was the relationship between the supply chain and the value chain. Another point on the difference between the supply chain and the value chain is that supply chain management endorses a supply chain orientation and involves proactive management of the two-way movement and coordination of goods. This is what I care about, the movement and the coordination of goods for the supply chain. Services, but not goods only, the goods and services. When we talk, we don't talk about goods only. We talk always about goods and services. You guys know the difference between the goods and services? Okay, let me tell you. The goods are intangible. Tangible means you can hold it with your hand, but the services are intangible, which means that you cannot hold the services in your hand. I'm doing now a service, but this is goods. This is goods. Okay, goods, because it's tangible. You can hold it with your hand. The second thing is you can store the goods, but you cannot store the services. What I'm doing now, I cannot put in the fridge. The education process, which I'm doing, I cannot put in the fridge and take it the next year and give it to the students. No, this will never happen. So, but the goods, you can store it. Okay. The goods are not related to its provider. You will buy a packet of cigarettes, you will buy drink or whatever from any shop. But for the services, you go to a particular person because the service is related to its provider, but the goods are not. And funds from raw materials through the user. So here, this is what we talk about the supply chain. Uh, this is serial value chain example. He's showing me very small example for the value chain. The farmer grain processor will make it cereal, then it will be packaged, packed, and it will go to the distributor. The distributor will give it to the grocer, and at the end, the grocer will give it to the consumer. In the same time, if you look at this, the arrows, because the arrow, the red one, is regarding the information's flow, and the materials, which in yellow, this is for the flow of the materials itself. However, we have also in the materials, we have also, there are separated bodies that support, as example, Maple MFR, this for the packaging. And we have also here the lumber company will give corrugated boxes, and this will go for the, so we have also another partners are in with the process of the supply chain. Okay, so we have many either direct relationships or indirect relationship. We have a direct relationship that will goes like the flow of the goods and services from the producer, which is the farmer, to the end user, which is the consumer. But in the same time, we have another parties that they are having benefits in dealing. Like as example, like we said, the packaging, as example, the packaging itself is including people who will supply the papers and the carton boxes and the wood boxes. So all those will help. So that means that we have two parties here, direct parties and indirect parties in the supply chain. And then as in the selling or the purchasing process as well. In the critical SCM process, supply chain management process, new products development, those are things very important in the supply chain. We have to be take it in concern in our accounts and our concern. Customer order fulfillment. You will do the order based on what the customer wants or no. Today, if you ask it for a pizza and the delivery of it will be late or something, you will look for another shop. You won't deal with the same shop anymore if they are late on you. As example, they delivered it within 1 hour instead of 10 minutes. Then you will never try back. You will check for another pizza shop. Supplier evaluation and selection. Of course, it's very complicated process nowadays. Demand and supply planning. And this is planning means looking forward to the future, how the future will be. Looking forward for how the future will be. The supply chain umbrella. It means what is included within the supply chain. What are the issues or the topics which is included within the supply chain. We have the purchasing, inbound transportation, the transportation, of course, because you said that the supply chain are all the activities involved from moving the goods and services from the consumer, from the producer into the end consumer. So the transportation is a part of this because this is the way to conduct the goods and services. Quality control. The quality is a philosophy which start and will never end. You don't think that when you deliver this to the consumer that you're done. No, still you have to know the consumer is satisfied about this product or no. Did this product satisfy his needs or no? Then you have to develop the product based on research and developments and based on surveys of the consumers. You have to know what the consumer needs more and more from this product. So the control quality is a continuous process. Demand and supply planning is also very important because this is under the supply chain. It works because you have to plan for the supply and demand. You have to plan so that you will know the size, the amount of products which will be shifted or transported from a place to a place. Receiving materials and handling and storage. The inventories as well is a part of the supply chain. Materials or inventory control also. So the inputs or the raw materials is a part of the supply chain. So supply chain, like we said, the flow of goods from the producer to the consumer. All this stuff which we talk about just now, the purchasing, the bound, the demand, the receiving, the materials, all those goes within the supply chain activities. And more, order processing also goes inside the supply chain. Production planning, scheduling, warehousing, distribution, shipping, transportation outbound, and because outbound means out of the shop, out of our place to the final destination, and customer services. Is the customer satisfied about your product or no? And this is the most important point. Now here we have some questions. We said, state the difference between supply chain and value chain. This is the second question. State the difference between the supply chain and the value chain. And you will find it on slide number 14 and slide number 15 here. The third question is the purchasing and supply chain. So I want you to define what the meaning of purchasing and what the meaning of the supply chain, and which one, including the other. The purchasing is including the supply chain, or the supply chain is including the purchasing. Of course, the supply chain, okay, is the umbrella for all the activities. On page 17 or slide 17, compare between supply chain and value chain, and which we said. So we said the differences between the supply chain and the value chain. On slide 20 and 21, we have a question. Discuss the supply chain umbrella. I will stop by each question from those, and you guys will start write or work on it based on what we had here. Okay, this is the most important parts of chapter 1. I just want also the highlights about the emerging SCM technologies. This is the global positioning systems, what's going on today in the whole world. Global means the world became like a small village. Internet-based systems, this is also very important. Barcodes, the using of the barcodes make it hesitate. Actually, the barcode hesitate all the trade transactions. Radio frequency identification devices. This also make it easy in handling and in the supply chain activities. But it's first or last, it's the updated technology or advanced technology. That's why those kind of technologies is very important also for the supply chain. Wireless devices also is helping in the supply chain. Okay. Uh, for this chapter, those are the main important points to talk about. I will go now to chapter 2. And in chapter 2, we will have some very important points on chapter 2. And actually, in chapter 2, the questions will be there while we are working on it. So chapter 2 is talking about the purchasing objectives. What are the purchasing objectives? And okay, so yeah, so the element of purchasing process, user requirements, you have to know first what is the requirements, the needs of your consumer. Evaluate needs effectively, and this is very important too. Identify suppliers, ensure payment occurs promptly. Okay, ascertain that the need was effectively met, that what your supplier needs, that you did it. Drive continuous improvement, always improve yourself, as we said. So here is the first question. What are the elements of the purchasing process? And I will give you a few minutes to work on this question. What are the elements of the purchasing process? So it's based on the elements of purchasing process, which we mentioned here. And here is a chart for the purchasing process. Those are the purchasing objectives, and it's very important. What is the job, the purchasing job? What's its own objectives? For what it aims to? Its task, its goal. Supply continuity means never stop supplying. Manage the purchasing process efficiently and effectively. That's another point. Develop supply-based management. Develop strong relationship with other functional stakeholders. And this is why, or the main objectives of the purchasing. Support organizational goals, of course, because the supply chain management is a part of the whole organization. For that reason, it must be supporting to the organizational goals. Develop integrated purchasing strategies that support organizational strategies. That's fine. Now we will come to the second question. We will work on it. We'll have about 5 minutes to go back on the slides and see, and you can search the web. If you find something more, you can add it here. What are the purchasing objectives? What are the purchasing objectives? We have it on the previous slide. Those slides are including the purchasing objective. Supply continuity. Continuity means going on, will never stop. Buy products, services at the right price, right? Buy them from the right source. Very important, this part. Buy them at the right specification that meet users' needs, okay? And buy them in the right quantity. So you will buy like this, the right quantity in the right time with the right from the right place, okay? Arrange for delivery at the right time And with the right costs, of course, the right cost means the lowest cost, the lowest possible costs. Always, one of the main objectives of the supply chain is to work effectively and efficiently within the minimum costs, okay? The minimum costs. So there is no kind of wasting for the resources. Require delivery to the right internal customer. And this is another point. Here is uh, supply market intelligence. Actually, we'll stop here for this terminology and know the meaning of it. Monitoring supply markets and trends, identifying critical materials and services, supporting new products development, developing supply options and contingency plans, supporting a diverse and globally competitive supply base. So I will have here a question about what is meant by supply market intelligence. Here we have the supply market intelligence. So you can write the answers here. I will give 5 minutes for answering this question. The word strategic in general means of a vital importance. Okay. So you try always all your activities to be a very strategic, like it's very important for yourself, for your organization, and for the others. Purchasing responsibilities, you have to evaluate and select supplier, select the good suppliers, the best suppliers, review specifications, acts as a primary contact, forecast and plan requirements, and clarify the customer's needs. Those are what we call the purchasing responsibilities. Again, I will stop here for a few minutes and ask about the purchasing responsibilities. Again, I'll stop for a few minutes and ask for the purchasing responsibilities. The use of elements of we'll come to a very important point, which we call the negotiations. So when to use negotiation, any criteria for competitive bidding are missing, then I have to get what I miss through the negotiations. The purchase requires agreement on the wide range of performance factors other than price alone. It's not only the price which affect about the agreement. There are a lot of other things. So I have to negotiate. Negotiate means take and give. See, like we have to talk to come to a middle point that will satisfy both our needs. The buyer requires early supplier involvement. The supplier cannot determine risk and can't the costs before contract is awarded. The supplier requires substantial lead time to develop the product so that I want more time to do my product well. Okay, those were the reasons for the negotiation. Those were the reasons why do we negotiate. So here the reasons are, again, when to use the negotiations. It's very important, and the most important part of this class today is the purchase order and the components of the purchase order. Like I will show it just now. Let me show you. Here is a purchase order. You can see it. Now, here, down here, the name of the company itself, Okay, the one who will make the purchase order, the purchasing company. Okay, and the details of this company, like the address, the postal code, or whatever. Okay, and there must be a number, the purchasing order, including a number of the purchase order and the date of the purchase order as well. Then down here, we write the items, the number of items which we need, description of them, the price, and the total. So if I need three pants, each pant is $20. Then 3 by 20, that will give me here $60. I need 10 shirts. 10 shirts. Each shirt price is $20. So 10 by 20 will give me 200. I will put the 200 here. Then down here, I will put the total of the whole amount. Then the responsible about the purchasing department or the author will sign here. In this part, he will sign here. Again, the purchase order, like you see, is just, it's like a well planned paper or a document. This document in the start itself on the top, the name of the purchasing company, and there is the order number. Of course, it must be including number and the date. Usually they write them on the right, some write them on the left, but it's okay. You have to write everything belong to your address, postal code, or whatever of the purchasing company here. Then down, you will write the item, if the item is having a number, like as example, a code number for the item, and the quantity which you want to buy, description, white pants, black shirt, or whatever, and the price of it. Then you multiply 3 by 20, 60 as example, and so on. At the end, you will collect, make like a submission. So you will add those parts together. Of course, I told you here there is a question about doing the draw a purchase order, and this is very important. Okay. We have some types of purchase order, like the blanket purchase order, used for ongoing purchases of an item. Always one item and is going on, the purchase of it. So we say blanket purchase order. Here are another detail for the types of purchase order: fixed price contracts, cost-based contracts. Okay, those are two types for the purchase order. Here we wrote what are the types of the purchase orders. You have it here. Usually, when I ship the goods required, I ship with them as a seller the invoice to the purchaser. So you have to pay for them. Here is very important questions about the types of purchases. What are the types of purchases? We have raw materials. We have semi-finished goods, means it's not totally finished, but it is semi-finished, looks like it's finished. As example, the tires for the cars. It is considered as inputs for another industry. Finished products, like the cars as example. And we have also maintenance, repair, and operating suppliers. Okay, maintenance, repair, and operating suppliers. Those are another type. So the types of purchases, production support items, services also we sell sometimes, we buy services or we sell services, capital equipments, transportation and third-party logistic provider. Here we have a question, what are the types of purchases? It depends on what we mentioned before. Improving the purchasing process is very important because we said always you try to make yourself in a higher quality so that you will be able to compete. You can use the online requesting systems, the electronic commerce using the internet, longer term purchase agreements, keep a relationship with your own suppliers for a long time, online ordering system like enhance and activate those systems always. Uh, Purchases, process redesign, always design the purchase process. You might find something extra or wasting time, so remove it. Electronic data interchange, online ordering using electronic catalogs. Actually, this is the most common thing in updating now the purchasing process, which is the use of the technology, because the technology every day is updating, so it updates with it also the purchasing process itself. Direct user supplier contract, this also. This is very important because it's very important question now. Like I'm telling you, Amazon as example, Amazon or Alibaba or whatever, those are ordering online. You are purchasing online. What are the advantages of it? Immediate visibility, to back orders, faster orders input time, you deliver it fast, reduce ordering errors. Yes, that's true, because what you want and what you decide online is what you get. Ordering tracking capabilities, you can know the order, where is the order now, where is it, very close to you or very far from you. Order acknowledgement for supplier, ability to batch multiple items into single order. Just remember Amazon when you are answering this part of the question. Faster order cycle time. So it's very speedy to reach. So here we have the question, what are the advantages of online ordering? What are the advantages of online ordering? So I'll give you 5 times to do this based on what we had before. This is a Felix example. So I'm done here. Thank you so much. Thank you. So welcome back, my dear students. This is chapter 3. We will work on it now, and we will see the main points. And we also, like we were doing, will go to questions and go to answers bags. And when we're working, we work on the questions from, which is very important for both the assignments and the exams. So I want you to listen to me and pay attention to what we have here today. Uh, okay. Purchasing policy and procedures, and let me share the screen. Okay. Here it is about the policies and procedures. The word policies always means something that you, within moving it to act. Instead of things on the paper now, we are moving it to act. The term policy. The term policy means refer to the set of purposes, principles, and rules of action that guide an organization. Okay, so when we say the policy to each other, policy means what? My policy, your policy, or the company's policy is the guidelines of this company in dealing with the guidelines and the principles of this company as well. Standard operating procedures, rules and regulations, formal and informal policies, part of organizational cultures. Of course, it's always the policy is will never be separated or apart from the culture. The culture are the norms and the values which control a company's performance and a group of people as well. So here we have question, what do we mean by the term policy? What do we mean by the term policy? There are advantages of using policies, of course, because it's like governing your situation. Opportunity to define and clarify top management perspectives, means for executives to communicate, provide a framework for consistent decision making, defines rules and procedures for all employers. Also, often difficult to communicate within large organization, might substitute for effective management, not a set of how-to instructions, may restrict employees' innovation. Those are some drawback, the disadvantages of using the policies. So the advantages are here. The advantages are opportunity to define and clarify top management perspectives, to show what the top management needs, means for executive to communicate its leadership views, provide a framework of consistent decision making and action, defines rules and procedures for all employees. How about the disadvantages? It's difficult to communicate with large organizations. That's true. Might substitute for effective management. Okay, not a set of how-to instructions. It is not the rule. The policies is not how to. No. So still some details will be missed. May resist employee innovation and flexibility because you put rules for the employee, he cannot work. So if he's having initiation ideas, new ideas or something, he won't be able to get it out because you put him under constraints. Here we have a question. Compare between the advantages and disadvantages of using policies. Uh, the objective of purchasing function. The objective of purchasing functions. Select suppliers that meet requirements. What are the objectives? What are my goals of the purchasing function which I'm doing? To select the right supplier, this is the first thing. Purchase materials and services that comply with appropriate standards. Purchase the right materials in the right time and from the right place. Promote buyers suppliers relationship and encourage suppliers contribution. Treat all suppliers fairly and ethically. Also, the objectives of the purchasing function include work closely with other internal departments because they are working with other departments. The supply chain department or the purchasing department are working with other departments. Conduct purchasing operations, support all corporate objectives and policies, maintain a qualified staff and develop its professional capabilities. Here we go for a question. State the objective of purchasing function. And you have 5 minutes to go on the answer of this question. State the objective of purchasing function. What I care about here is the environmental issues actually in the supply chain management. Today, nowadays, we find the environment in everything. Clean environment, green environment, um, friendly environment. So what do we mean by the environment issues? Now required by law and major customers, uses of recycled materials, like you hear about the word recycle, strict compliances with applicable laws about waste, about the pollution rates, to reduce the pollution rates, to reduce the unemployment rates. Also, I'm working with a society. I have to have social values inside me. Okay, proper disposal of waste materials, health and safety issues as well. So those are the environmental issues, which is very important nowadays. And you have the question of it. Give examples of buyer-supplier relationship. Here, I give you examples of buyer-supplier relationship, how this relationship should be: treating suppliers fairly and with integrity, supporting and developing motivated suppliers, the good suppliers, I will help them, providing prompt payment on invoice. So whenever I have invoices, I have to pay on the spot, encouraging suppliers to submit innovative ideas. So if suppliers are having ideas, don't restrict them, just let them express what they want. Developing open communication channels, informing suppliers why they did not receive a purchase contract. If they didn't have a purchase, you should tell them, give them the justifications. Because your higher, as example, your prices was very high, the quality of your materials was not that satisfy my customers' needs. So those you have to give justifications why you didn't select this supplier. Establishing a fair process toward a purchases contract. So I asked you here, give an example of buyer-supplier relation. And here you have it, the buyer-supplier relation on the slides number 24 and 25. Yeah, so the qualification and selection. State some of the qualification and selection criteria. The criteria are here as example: the price and the cost, the product quality, the delivery, the financial conditions, the engineering and manufacturing competences, the selection, like the management of its own supply-based management, ability to work with buying organizations, and potentials of innovations. Those are examples for the qualifications uh, and selection. Uh, Environmental management system, actually, this is a nowadays topic. Create an environmental policy. It will create a policy. Set appropriate objectives and targets. Help design and implement program to achieve objectives and targets. Monitor and measure programs effectiveness, and monitor the measurements effectiveness of general environment activities. Because I'm keeping always on a relationship with the environment, I have to check the environment, what the environment wants, and what I can take from the environment, and how I will respect this environment return. I won't pollute the environment. I will be product friendly with the environment. Give examples for legal contract procedures. You can have examples here as example for the legal contract procedures. Uh, Basic features of the standard purchase agreement, how the agreement looks like, the contract, basic contract principles, execution and administration of the agreement, the essential clauses that the contract should have, compliances with the contract, how far I'm doing what's in the contract exactly, the supply contract. Those are all legal contract procedures. Formal competitive contracting procedures, contract development process, examples of samples agreement, legal definitions should be very clear in the contract. Everything should be very clear and explicit. Use of formal contract clauses. So those are examples of the legal contract procedures. Should be taken into consideration when you are doing the contract procedures. Shall I stop here? Thank you so much for watching the video, and that will help you in studying as well. So please be aware that the questions is very important because it's a part of our own assignments and exams. It might be like give examples. You have to serve the examples wherever you are working on this type of questions. Thank you so much and have a great night. Thank you. Bye bye.